the Sorgies' next trip will be in September 2015 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
We're here at Purple Door Ice Cream, a locally made ice cream here in the Milwaukee area. But we're on Pittsburgh Street, which is why we're going to talk to you about our Pittsburgh trip, the second trip we took in 2015 to see the Brewers. And this was a family trip. We actually drove out to Pittsburgh. This little guy.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to rate this 8.6.
I actually met Mommy and little guy in Pittsburgh. They had already driven out to West Virginia, and they went with their Mimi to join up with us. We stayed in downtown Pittsburgh and had a ball. And the reason I bring up a ball is because we first ate together at a meatball place in Pittsburgh, a restaurant that specializes in meatballs. You didn't like it that much.
Really?
I mean, we tried a few of the meatballs, but wasn't as much of a fan, but it's a fantastic, fun place to have a meal.
So here in Wisconsin, we have something called custard. It's ice cream, and you could probably explain what it is compared to ice cream better than I can. But this is some of the best ice cream I've had. It's right here on the corner of Pittsburgh and 2nd. Also, what is it, Water something in 2nd, and it changes from Pittsburgh to that other name. And the clock tower is right down the street, so you can get a great view of the clock tower while you're in here. It's amazing.
Then came game day. Before we went to game day itself, before we went to PNC Park, we went to the Western Pennsylvania History Museum, which had a great display of World War II artifacts. It actually had a Mr. Rogers display.
Is this the best ice cream place in Milwaukee?
And I highly recommend the beer and pretzel ice cream here at Purple Door.
I recommend the chocolate chip cookie dough.
There was also a very big sports play area, very similar to what you'd experience with a lot of the kids' areas, the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame, and a lot of those type of activities. A fantastic ode to Pittsburgh sports. Primanti Brothers in Pittsburgh is a legend of a restaurant. I actually went there twice on our trip. I arrived the night before Tony and my wife arrived, and I couldn't get enough of their sandwiches. But they're a tradition in that place, not just because they've been there for so long, not just because they have such an ode to Pittsburgh sports, but because of the sandwiches that they have themselves. Basically, every sandwich that they serve there, the typical way you get it is with fries on the sandwich. The reason being that you had a lot of truck drivers that would drive into the area called the Strip District in Pittsburgh. They would stop there, but they wouldn't be able to eat the fries separately. It would be hard to handle. So they just said, put the fries in the sandwich. And it worked out fantastically. It's a mess to eat. It makes a complete mess all over, and it's fantastic.
Then the game. The big highlight was the view of Pittsburgh, of the downtown skyline. 3 bridges, 3 rivers, all coming together around that spot. The Pittsburgh fans were heckling Chris Davis, the Brewers left fielder, now with the Oakland A's. I, at 5 years old, I think, was telling Chris just not to listen to him. I yelled, Chris, don't listen to him, concentrate.
So in the end, when those fans saw the little guy responding back, we had so much fun with them. And not in a mean-spirited way, it was all ball. They agreed to keep their, shall we say, trash talking to G or PG rated, yelling stuff like, your mama bakes stinky tasting cookies or something like that.
Yeah.
And they had so much fun with us. We had a great time with them. It was all a blast.
Welcome to Walk and Talk, where we are talking about random things while we are walking someplace.
Well, this walk and talk is right beside the Milwaukee River, which meets with another river and heads into Lake Michigan. But our 9th baseball trip was right by a much bigger river, the Mississippi River. And who did we see the Brewers play?
The Twins.
This was back in 2017. Our trip started on a Sunday, drove up on this trip to the Twin Cities, First, we took you to a historic diner in St. Paul, Mickey's Diner. Basically, a train car turned into an old-fashioned American food diner. You had the ham and cheese, and you didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, but
I remember Mickey's. It's really cool. And they had this cool, I don't know if back in the day how they had those things. How they had those things where you press a letter and a number and you could choose songs and you put a quarter in it. They had those.
Yeah, it weren't working.
Yeah, they didn't.
But we also went to two fantastic spots later on that day. One was a beauty of nature called Minnehaha Falls. Beautiful waterfall in the southern part of the city of Minneapolis. We had a couple of friends there, friends Julia and Liam, who are Minnesota Twins fans, but we met up and we had an absolute ball there, just seeing the natural beauty of that waterfall.
Yeah, it was 50 feet, wasn't it?
At least 50 feet, more than that.
If not 75.
Now, the Sunday night after, we went bowling at this awesome place called Bryant Lake Bowl, which is where it's like a 1950s style bowling alley, old school, quirky, and fun. Our friends Annie and Chad met us. We had an absolutely great time. Then we went up to our Airbnb on the campus of the University of Minnesota.
So pretty much, you have a parking pass, but I guess every 10 or 15 minutes, they have somebody that literally goes around to all the cars and makes sure that they have a parking pass. And we were just unloading, and they towed our car away, literally, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, they wanted to try and demand like about $300 and some from us to get the car back because of their predatory towing policy. It was the towing company's fault itself, and the Airbnb was being completely unhelpful because it was the fact that it took so long to unload and actually get the parking pass in order to go down and then put it in the car. In between that amount of time, we got towed. Wasn't our fault. But they, of course, decided to not help, and that was the fault of the ownership of the company that owned the building.
Yeah.
Airbnb, though, was fantastic to us. They refunded us, and we actually were able to stay with a friend who lives in St. Paul itself.
Yeah.
And they were so welcoming in bringing us back in.
Yeah.
Monday in the Twin Cities was the day, first of all, to get our car, so we had to walk across the Mississippi River. That was cool. We took, I believe it was St. Anthony's Bridge, if I remember correctly. Walked around a lot of downtown, saw the home of the Minnesota Vikings, where the Green Bay Packers are hopefully going to be winning a few more games, US Bank Stadium.
And hopefully in the long future, a Super Bowl.
If they ever bring the Super Bowl back there. It was cold during that Super Bowl. Reporters don't want to deal with that kind of cold temperature when they
it was
cover Super Bowl.
-20.
But not on the days that we went. It was beautiful. And the architecture, by the way, at first I always thought it looked like a Star Wars sandcrawler. I actually like it. It grew on me when we were there. And then we took a light rail down, got our car back, and went to go stay with our friends who were incredibly generous in giving us a place to stay. We walked around St. Paul. What was the name of the author's house that we passed by? F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Oh, I remember that now.
One of the great American authors. He lived there, and we got that part of the tour. Final day was game day in the Twin Cities. It started off with you getting pretty creative at the Mall of America.
Crayola. We went to the Crayola factory, and I got the full collection of crayons.
Big box of crayons. Really big.
It's
Way
not.
big.
It's not even a box. It's a whole. It's literally a holder. I'm guarding him because he's talking, so he's a Timberwolf and I'm a Buck.
The final part of our trip on that day was taking the light rail up to downtown Minneapolis, where first we checked out a statue very similar to what you saw with the Bronze Fonz. In fact, I believe the same group did both the Bronze Fonz and the Mary Tyler Moore statue. It was inside inside a building in downtown Minneapolis before they were going to permanently set it up in a different spot in the downtown area before we went to Target Field to see the Brewers play the Twins.
Welcome to Anthony Can Part 1. We are here at the Art Museum of the St. Kate Hotel while I talk about the, what am I trying to remember? The game against the Milwaukee Brewers and the Minnesota Twins.
You're not the British bottle.
I don't know I don't remember who won. I remember the view. That's all I remember was the V-I-E-W view.
Yeah, the view that this little guy was talking about is a beautiful view at Target Field, which is along the third base line. I purposely got us upper deck, first row seats along the third base line at Target Field. And it was just majestic. If you look over by the downtown skyline, it was spectacular and even better at night. And we also got there very early, which gave you a chance, little buddy, for batting practice.
I didn't catch a ball, but I got, wasn't it 11 autographs?
Somewhere in that neck of the woods, you got a bunch.
Jeremy Jeffress and Josh Hader.
Two of the best relievers in at least the National League, if not all of baseball.
Well, Hader is the best reliever in the league.
He is spectacular. So we had that fantastic view. We met up with a whole bunch of friends from college as well as some other friends who joined us at the game. We forgive them for being Twins fans. It's a sort of a rivalry game, but not really. It's more of just a fun get-together between people across state lines.
And every year, the Brewers play the Twins, 2 games at Miller Park, 2 games in Minnesota, and it's always really fun to go up to Minnesota. Us Brewers fans, we travel.
Oh, by far we do.
Just like game 163.
By far we do.
In 2018, our last trip, we went to Philly!
We're here at Miller Park for a Brewers-Reds game. This is Sherry, and you see that Reds fan in the background wandering in Joe. They have a permanent opportunity to ever join us anytime they want on a Brewers road trip, on any of our trips as we go. But Miss Sherry came and joined us along with her daughter Nora for the trip to Philadelphia last year. Now the 4 of us and Mommy, who's sitting right next to me, but is the anonymous Mommy here in the shot, we all went to Philadelphia to see the Brewers and Phillies last year, right about this time, as a matter of fact. And we picked up these 2 at the airport after driving from Cleveland, and then Saturday, the 4 of us just traipsed around downtown Philadelphia.
It was awesome.
What were your favorite highlights?
Water ice!
Water Ice, the dog.
Now, for those who don't know what Water Ice is, Rita's Italian Ice is a place in Philadelphia that serves basically this Italian ice where they used to take snow, literal snow from the Italian mountains, flavor it, and make this dessert out of it.
And Nora, what did we save? What did we save that morning?
Oh yeah, we saved the dog. It was wandering around our Airbnb.
Yep, we did save a dog.
You were not there.
Yeah, I
You were inside.
Now, while we were doing all this, we also went around some of the historical sites of Philadelphia, checked out the Liberty Bell, the
Ran
National...
the stairs, Rocky Stairs.
The Rocky
Woo!
Stairs. This guy ran him twice.
I know
We
it.
ran him twice. We saw the National Constitution Center. By the way, check that place out. That is awesome. That is
These guys
awesome.
were on the Supreme Court.
Yes.
And we photobombed the Philly Fanatic.
That's true.
Went to the Betsy Ross house. Bought my wife a shirt that basically said, "Well-behaved women never make history." Exactly. And ate at a place at a pizza place.
That pizza
Right.
was to die.
Oh my gosh, I forget the name of it, but I'll put a link in the video here. and we ate near an Iron Chef.
We did.
We were next to Alex Guarnaschelli. Yes, we were trying to at least let her be with her family and her friends. Saw the beautiful Philadelphia Basilica, and then enjoyed the water ice.
More water ice. Swedish fish. It was Swedish fish flavored, which was totally cool. It was killer. So I had some crazy mango thing or something like that, but she chose Swedish fish.
I did
and
too.
It was the best.
Swedish fish.
Swedish fish by far, fantastic.
Yes.
And then Sunday, we went to a mass at the National Shrine of St. Rita, and St. Rita actually is a baseball connection.
Yeah, she is the patron saint of baseball.
Yeah, and I believe, what was it? That someone caught a historic home run. Was that it?
It was a nun that caught it was the shot heard around the world.
That's right, the Bobby Thompson home run in 1951. A nun caught that ball, and then I guess they used it to do some sort of ministry work. Is that right? I think that we'll have to look it up. I'll see if I can find a link and put it in the description of it. And then we saw the Brewers play the Phillies.
In the rain. It was super rainy.
The nosebleeds, and then the loss.
No, it was fun, but it was wet.
It was a blast to be just escaping the rain and just hanging out together. They lost, but we had so much fun.
In the comments, put #Philly if you like Philadelphia.
And we also ate 6 of the 7 Philadelphia food groups.
Yes, we did.
Water ice is one of them.
Yes.
We went to 3 different cheesesteak spots. 3 different cheesesteak spots. Dal Santro's was our favorite. We also had Tony Luke's in the stadium. We did go to Pat's. I went to Pat's myself. Of the 2 very touristy spots, Pat's is much better. There was no line because we had a torrential downpour. But the roast pork sandwich is much better. Now I can't get them all involved. Yes, the Krabby Fries.
Krabby fries. If they don't get Krabby fries in Wisconsin, we don't know what the heck we're doing. They're the best.
And all you really have to do is just find the right type of seasoning and salt and just order it and make them yourself too. That
Wig
and
is a weirdo. Wig is a weirdo.
so we tasted most of the Philadelphia food groups, and we went to Mara's restaurant in Philadelphia when my wife's mom, my mother-in-law joined us, and Mara's was fantastic. And yes, I had the Rolli Massimino pasta dish, named after the great championship-winning Villanova coach. And oh yeah, we forgot the other Philadelphia food group, pretzels, soft pretzels.
What about cookie dough?
That's not a Philly food group. What?
They have good cookie dough.
They might have good cookie dough, but it's not a Philly food group. Sausage race time! Let's go Italian!
Let's go Italian!
Come on Italian! Let's go! There's Italian! Come on Italian! Go Italian! Go Italian! Oh, the Polish won!
In the last second!
Beat the Italian! I also want to give this kid credit when we were in Philadelphia. We found this place in Philly that is a pizza place that when people donate a certain amount of money, they'll give $1 worth of pizza, meaning a big slice of pizza, to a person who's homeless or hungry. This kid saved $70 of his own money and gave it to that place. That way they could serve 70 pizza meals for those who could often go without meals in Philadelphia. And yeah! Woo! Brewers win 7-5. By the time you watch this, we will have already started our Brewers road trip, 12 nights, 11 days, and we're going to be going to it's going to be a long and fun journey. We are planning to vlog every single day of that trip. But first, our next video is going to be showing you how we plan these trips. A lot of work goes into this, a lot of money saving, and a lot of preparation to find out where to go, what to do, maybe gives you tips on how to do your road trips, whether it's baseball or anything else. What's your name?
Anthony?
I'm Jay. Happy baseball road trips, and you have a fanny pack.
You. Go Brewers.
What were you doing earlier?
Does that scare you?
No. Why don't you step right in front of me?
I'm guarding you.
Okay. This is all real stuff. Okay. Alright, why don't you head back around my leg. You can actually talk here. Right. Our trip started out.
What in the world is this? By the way, if you don't know what this is, it's a clef. It's not what's known to be a butt chin.
We're not here to discuss your chin here. We're talking about baseball trips.
I know.
Alright.
Shout out to That's Amazing. Like, share to all your family and friends, including your mom, dad, and friends. And then you need to subscribe and hit that bell. So long, everybody, from Miller Park in Milwaukee.